Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are cracking open one of the most critical high-stakes shifts happening right now,
Oh, yeah.
the pharmaceutical industry's massive digital transformation. And this isn't, just about faster computers or some new software.
No, not at all.
It is fundamentally reshaping how drugs are discovered, developed, and manufactured. And a lot of that is being driven by AI and just enormous amounts of data.
It's a total game changer, but it's also a huge risk if it's done poorly. Our whole mission today is to give you a shortcut to understanding that essential foundation.
The human element.
Exactly, the human and organizational element. We're going to go beyond the tech itself and really focus on these sophisticated digital competencies, the ethical standards you need for patient safety, and real organizational resilience.
Absolutely. The technology is moving so fast, but if the leaders and the teams aren't ready, those, multi-billion-dollar tech investments are just going to stall.
They do.
So we've distilled the source material to identify the core leadership competencies needed for what we're calling responsible innovation.
And we found 3 pillars. These really extend far beyond your traditional management skills.
Okay.
They are digital fluency, adaptive decision-making, and rigorous ethical AI governance. And these are, well, they're non-negotiable for the future C-suite.
And to give you a sense of executive priorities, we pulled some data on this. The breakdown is, it's fascinating. Digital fluency is at the top of the list. It's a massive 25%.
45%.
Right behind that, adaptive decision-making at 20%, and then ethical AI governance at 15%. So that shows you that the compliance structures and the behavioral skills are seen as almost as important as the technical knowledge.
That 60% concentration in just 3 areas sends a really loud message.
Which is?
If you don't master those top 3, the entire transformation framework just collapses. The risk of stalling, or worse, introducing some unmanaged regulatory or patient risk is just way too high.
So let's start with that first pillar, digital fluency. For a pharma exec, this means more than just, being good with the spreadsheet.
Much more.
It's about making strategic decisions and accurately assessing tech risks that could decide the fate of a drug candidate.
Precisely. It requires a strategic grasp of core technologies. Take cloud computing, for instance.
Okay.
For any modern AI initiative, the cloud is not optional, it is the backbone for your data. We know that by 2025, something like 96% of companies across all industries will be using public cloud services.
But in pharma, it's different. Executives aren't just buying storage space.
No. They have to understand and manage these incredibly complex compliance requirements, especially around what are called GxP-qualified cloud environments.
Wait, hang on. Let's quickly define GxP for our listener.
Right, so GxP stands for Good Practices. It's a collection of mandatory quality guidelines and regulations.
So it governs everything.
Pretty much. From lab practices, or GLP, to manufacturing, GMP, and clinical trials, GCP. So a GxP-qualified cloud just means the infrastructure itself meets these super strict standards for data integrity and validation.
And if an executive doesn't get that?
They could deploy a new AI system that uses non-compliant data, and that could jeopardize the entire regulatory submission for a new drug.
Wow. So that compliance layer adds immense complexity, but the return is huge, especially when we talk about advanced analytics and AI.
It is the most transformative area. I mean, the data proves it. 87% of pharma execs point to analytics as the top area where cloud solutions add real, measurable value.
And this is where the competitive advantage is really built.
It is.
And the number, they get really exciting here. They change the whole game for investment. AI is already showing it can cut drug discovery timelines by 30%.
30%.
Yeah.
But the impact on clinical trials is maybe even more stunning.
Yeah.
AI has the potential to improve clinical trial success rates from the traditional, say, 40 to 65% average, all the way up to 80 or even 90%.
When you move a late-stage trial success from 60% to 85%, you are fundamentally changing the risk profile of that asset.
You are. For investors, for everyone. You accelerate cash flow, and you can allocate your R&D budget much more efficiently. That's why the global AI and drug discovery market is projected to skyrocket to over $20 billion by 2034. It's not a niche.
It's the future operating model.
It is.
And finally, digital fluency has to include a deep understanding of cybersecurity. This is not something you just delegate to IT.
No, it's a board-level imperative, especially when you consider the value of the intellectual property.
Which is priceless.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The IP from AI-driven discovery, the chemical structures, the mechanistic insights, is worth billions. It was genuinely shocking to find that as of 2024, about 10% of pharmaceutical companies lacked proper vulnerability management plans.
10%. Think about the consequences of that.
A single major breach could mean theft of a decade's work of R&D, or worse, massive regulatory fines under laws like GDPR. A digitally fluent leader gets that cybersecurity is risk management for the entire company.
That focus on data security leads us perfectly to the behavioral questions, around trust and decision making. We've set up the need for technical mastery. Let's shift now to the human side, starting with adaptive decision making.
Good.
Why is this so much more critical in pharma compared to, say, banking?
Well, because the industry operates under layers and layers of unprecedented uncertainty. You have decade-long development timelines, regulatory goalposts are always shifting, and the financial investments are just immense.
$1 billion or more per drug.
Often more. So an adaptive leader has to balance the need for rapid adjustment, like, say, pivoting a clinical trial design based on some interim AI analysis, while rigorously maintaining safety and quality compliance.
That sounds like a tightrope walk. You have to be fast, but you absolutely cannot sacrifice quality.
Exactly. It requires robust frameworks for scenario planning.
Oh.
But I think more critically, it demands an emphasis on psychological safety and authentic leadership.
Right.
Drug development is full of common, costly technical failures. Teams have to feel completely safe to experiment, to flag issues, and to learn from those setbacks immediately.
But if teams are already worried about failure, because of the financial and career stakes, doesn't layering in these complex kind of opaque AI systems just give them more reason to be defensive?
That is an excellent challenge.
You might see the AI as a black box they're afraid to even question.
And that's exactly why true adaptive leadership requires transparency about the AI process itself. You couple that with authentic leadership that models learning, not punishing.
So the leader has to go first.
The leader has to go first. If they publicly acknowledge and study a failure instead of sweeping it under the rug, that sets the tone for everyone. We saw a great example where a team avoided a 2-year regulatory delay simply because they felt safe enough to immediately flag a minor data input error in an early AI model.
Yeah. An error that would have invalidated years of data if left unchecked.
Exactly.
And leveraging diverse perspectives must play into this, right, for better, more ethical decisions.
Absolutely. The data is clear. Diverse teams just have superior innovation outcomes. But in pharma, this is crucial for clinical relevance. You need to actively incorporate input from diverse stakeholders, gender, race, professional background, into your strategic planning and AI development.
Which brings us perfectly to our final leadership competency, ethical AI and governance. Given the patient safety implications, the ethical challenges aren't abstract.
No, they are literally matters of life and death. The decisions these AI models make directly impact patient outcomes. So leaders have to prioritize bias mitigation.
How so?
Well, we know if AI models are trained on insufficiently diverse data sets, you get biased algorithms that can systematically underestimate disease severity in, say, minority populations. Implementing comprehensive, continuous bias auditing is just non-negotiable now.
And I imagine proving the models are trustworthy to regulators is just as hard.
That's the core of transparency and compliance. AI systems have to provide interpretable outputs. We often call this explainable AI or XAI.
Because regulators won't approve a black box.
Never. They won't sign off on something that just spits out a diagnosis or a treatment plan without a clear, auditable trail. This is especially true as leaders navigate global frameworks like FDA guidance, EM reflections, and the big one, the EU AI Act.
The EU AI Act is often called a legislative sledgehammer. Why is it so relevant for a leader today?
Because it's setting a global precedent, especially for high-risk applications like medical devices. It mandates strict transparency and quality controls. And to manage all this complexity, the bias, the compliance, the clinical relevance, effective governance really demands oversight boards.
And these can't just be tech people.
No, they have to be multidisciplinary. You need technical experts, sure, but also clinical staff, regulatory specialists, ethicists, and, crucially, patient representatives to evaluate these high-risk AI applications before they're ever deployed.
Let's shift focus from the C-suite down to the whole workforce. Because even with the best leaders and the strongest ethics, you need the right skills on the ground.
Of course.
So how are companies prioritizing investment to close this massive skills gap we're all seeing?
We see a very clear hierarchy of needs in the data. Digital and data skills are, well, predictably the most critical at 30%. But look what comes next.
Regulatory skills at 25%, And quality in manufacturing at 20?
Exactly.
That's interesting. So 45% of the priority is on compliance and execution, not just, the bleeding edge of innovation.
That's it. It just reinforces the unique reality of pharma. Speed is nothing without compliance and quality. Innovation itself is only 15%, and leadership skills are only 10%.
Why so low?
The assumption is that new leaders need to be trained in those other skills first: digital, regulatory, and quality.
So how do companies even begin to organize such a massive upskilling effort? You can't just hand everyone a book.
No, you need a formal structure. That's where industry standards, like the ISPE Pharma 4.0 skill taxonomy, come in.
What exactly is that?
It's a systematic framework from the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering. It's meant to standardize how we define, develop, and manage all these new competencies. It uses a rigorous 7-step process and organizes skills into 4 quadrants: resources, information systems, organization and processes, and culture.
It's a blueprint.
It's the blueprint for mapping your current skills against your future needs.
So let's talk about the practical methods that are actually working.
Well, microlearning has emerged as highly effective, mostly because it respects a busy professional schedule.
Right, breaking it down into small pieces.
Short, focused bursts. This approach can boost engagement by up to 60% compared to those long, traditional training sessions.
And we're also seeing a bit of a renaissance in apprenticeships, aren't we, for high-level skills?
We are. Apprenticeships are growing, focused on developing deep, hands-on expertise over time. The UK pharma industry, for example, has seen a 33% increase since 2019, specifically targeting high-level R&D and IT qualifications. This is how you build real capacity from the ground up.
Of course, the big question is always the money. What's the ROI on all this training?
Oh, the return is stellar. Companies with comprehensive training enjoy a staggering 218% higher income per employee.
Wow.
And well-designed programs reliably return between $4.10 and $4.50 for every single dollar invested.
So how do they measure that success?
A disciplined 4-level approach. You measure participant satisfaction and knowledge acquisition, then verifiable behavior change on the job, and finally, the ultimate goal: business impact.
We've covered leadership, we've covered the workforce. Now let's get to the foundation that holds it all up. Cultural transformation.
The catalyst.
Exactly. Culture determines how employees respond to change and how they handle risk. It can accelerate or just kill innovation.
And this is where pharma faces its most unique challenge: interpreting that fail fast mantra from the tech sector.
Right, because unlike a social media company, pharma absolutely cannot move fast and break things.
You can't. Not when patient safety is on the line. They need a modified approach.
So what does safe failure even look like in this context?
It means a culture that prioritizes early learning, systematic validation, and containing the downside risk. The goal is to find and learn from small, contained problems early in R&D to prevent those catastrophic, expensive failures later on.
So it's not failure without consequence?
No, it's failure with rapid, structured learning loops. It's about channeling that desire for innovation in a safe, structured way.
And this is where entrepreneurship comes in.
Precisely. That's a powerful mechanism. We have the fantastic example of Merck's EMIAS, their Emerging Markets Innovative Access Studio.
What was that?
It was essentially a structured internal incubator. Over a year, they gathered over 180 innovative commercial models from employees and then refined them down to the most promising ideas through agile sprints. It's a sanctioned funnel for internal innovation.
And none of this works without trust, which brings us right back around to psychological safety.
It is the single most foundational requirement for an effective quality culture. It's the belief that you won't be punished or humiliated for speaking up, making a mistake, or challenging the status quo.
Especially in safety-critical environments.
That's where it enables early issue detection. The sources break this down into 4 stages of safety that leaders must build: inclusion safety, learner safety, contributor safety, and finally, challenger safety. If your people don't feel safe to challenge a flawed data model, you have a massive failure just waiting to happen.
So if you manage to do all this, upskill the workforce, transform leadership, foster safety, how do you measure that transformation?
You measure it with quantifiable metrics that are linked directly to business outcomes. Cultural shifts lead to tangible results. For instance, we've seen organizations where employee engagement metrics jump from, say, 65% up to 85%. You track innovation metrics, and the most compelling link is to the bottom line.
Which is?
Companies with highly engaged workforces achieve 23% higher profitability. Successful cultural programs typically achieve impressive ROI ratios of 4 to 1, even 6 to 1.
Incredible.
To synthesize everything we've looked at, success in this new, complex digital pharma ecosystem really depends on the convergence of three factors.
Okay.
You need leaders with digital fluency who can drive adaptive decision-making. You need a workforce that is actively, constantly upskilling. And crucially, you must have a culture that fosters psychological safety and enables that disciplined process of safe failure and continuous learning.
What really stands out to me is the sheer financial power of the human element here. We've seen that workforce development can return 450 for every dollar invested. Cultural transformation can yield up to a 6 to 1 ROI.
The numbers are undeniable.
So here's the thought for you to take away. Considering those proven returns, how quickly are you or your organization prioritizing cultural transformation and upskilling right alongside the technology implementation? Because that investment in your people, not just in the AI itself, that is the core competitive advantage that truly compounds over time.